So, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody, wherever you listen to us. Welcome to this brief introduction of a new tool in neuroscience that was developed by Sebastian, who is also here, and which we use, myself and my colleagues, to teach students important concepts in neuroscience. Important concepts in neuroscience that in most cases are linked with the function of nerve cells, synapses, networks, and cellular concepts like this. So Nest Desktop was developed to be able to convey sometimes complicated and involved concepts to students who may not have a very strong background in this kind of theoretical approach to neuroscience. Just to illustrate this a little better, I will show you a few slides in a second, but maybe before that, both Sebastian and myself should introduce ourselves and give you an impression what is our background and what is our research interest. Sebastian, do you want to start?
Yes, so I'm a PhD student in biology. And before I start, I want to tell you that I have a hearing disability. So I have some problem with understanding people on computer or the virtual meeting. So I would like to ask you to drop questions in the chat and then I will answer them. And yes, we can have a discussion with you. I try to understand you. Okay, so I will show my screen. Give me a second.
Sebastian, wait. I will now introduce myself and show these few introductory slides that I made, and then we can actually jump right in.
Okay.
So my name is Stefan. I'm a professor for computational neuroscience at the University of Freiburg, which is a small university place in the southwest of Germany. The neuroscience program here is mainly rooted in the biology faculty. So we are teaching mainly biology students, although you should know that my background is actually mathematics and physics. And I'm attacking neuroscience problems more from a theoretical point of view. Computer simulations in this field are actually quite important. So computer simulations of networks and brains and models related to it are a very important component of our teaching. So this software tool that we are going to explain to you today serves the purpose that it bridges possible gaps that may exist between the previous training of students in our classes and the requirements of the contents that we want to teach. So I will now share my screen just to illustrate this a little better. So the field we work in is called computational neuroscience. And computational neuroscience, in a nutshell, means that we are using computers more intensely than others to do research in neuroscience and brain science. The problem with this is that our students may, in many cases, not have sufficient programming skills to really employ the methods we want them to learn. So we cannot assume that they are able to follow our explanations if we do it in a traditional way. In addition, students from the life sciences very often lack a formal training in mathematics and physics, which is, well, to some degree required, but it's definitely useful to understand better the approaches and solutions that come in the field of computational neuroscience. Biologists, maybe as a matter of principle, often feel uncomfortable with this very formal approach in terms of models and theory. And anyway in the class that goes for a week or maybe 2 weeks in a row, or maybe 1 day per week through the whole semester, there is never enough time to really learn everything from scratch in detail. So in order to allow people to work on interesting problems very quickly right away, Nest Desktop is really a great service. Yeah, so Nest Desktop is a simulation tool where no programming is required. Sebastian will show this to you in a second. And we have been using this software tool to devise a couple of new courses where computer simulations are used to study neuronal systems, neurons, synapses, networks, and so on and so forth, which allows us to explain very important concepts from systems neuroscience, actually just by doing it and playing with it. Just to give you an example, in systems neuroscience, I think there is now a lot of agreement that synaptic excitation and synaptic inhibition are the two main forces that for healthy brain function need to be in balance. Yeah, so studying and understanding the balance between excitation and inhibition is actually quite a challenge experimentally, but also theoretically. But computer simulations are a perfect vehicle, I would say, to actually get an intuitive understanding what EI balance actually means and how it works. So for that purpose, Sebastian developed a very intuitive graphical user interface that you will play with and be able to explore yourself in 2 minutes, which allows you to do interesting and relevant simulations with essentially no programming required. You only need to understand the neurobiological concepts, and the graphical user interface then actually allows you in an intuitive way to translate your neuroscientific intuition into graphical programming. So in addition to this, the software is actually very easy to use in the sense that it's easily installed because it's just running in your internet browser. So you will see now by the explanations of Sebastian how this works and how simple simulations can actually be done within 3 minutes essentially.